Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to PDN, Personal Development Networking. This is a Houston West Chamber event. Houston West Chamber is my favorite chamber. It's one of the largest chambers. There's over 800 company members, and when you translate that into staff and people involved, it's over 50,000 people that you have a contact with. How many of you are involved with Houston West Chamber? We got 3, 4, 5, okay, pretty good. They have over 300 meetings throughout the year. This is one of those meetings. PDN is just one of the committees involved, and we have a monthly meeting that covers physical. You'll hear from Bill Laughlin today on health. Mental, that's things like memory improvement. All aspects of business, and you'll hear a great business coach today. Networking, I'll give you a few tips on that. And we meet on the second Wednesday of every single month. This is just a few of the speakers that we've had in recent times. Some of those you may recognize. This is, well, it doesn't work on a screen, does it? This goes, Howard Partridge. He's the vice president for all of the training for the Ziegler Corporation. Eric Swanson, you may know, he ran the very successful events here, Habitude Warrior Conference. Eric Stanley, first time that I met Eric Stanley, he was the founder of the largest network in Houston, business network, and he had over 10,000 members. And when I met Eric, I was expecting that typical elevator pitch from him. And what he said to me was, who would you like to meet? Isn't that great? Think about that when you... Tom Big Al Schreider, one of the best generic network trainers that I know. Jonathan Sprinkles. Jonathan's written 14 books, I guess. He's right here in Houston. You see him on Channel 26. Bill Walsh, he conducted those small business expos here in Houston. There were over 2,000 attendees. Had them at the George L. Brown Convention Center. Hank Moore. Hank is, I think he's written 11 books now. Many of them are bestsellers, and some of them are Pulitzer Prize nominees. Brian Hilliard. He wrote the first Networking Like a Pro book, and then he teamed up with Dr. Ivan Meisner with the BNI, and the next one was a bestseller. Scott, I'll talk about Scott a little bit later. Okay. I spent most of my time in the areas of networking, and what I'd like to do today is to give you a quick note on how to build some credibility in networking. So when does networking begin? I'd like to just take a quick poll. Is it when that person walks in the door? How many agree to that? Or when you actually have eye contact with that person? How about when you start shaking hands? What about if you start speaking? I want to tell you no. It starts when you wake up in the morning and you look in the mirror and you put on your networking face. Tony Robbins calls it peak state. Jonathan Sprinkles calls it position. But it's getting you ready for the day. And there's a number of things that you're going to look at for the day. For instance, where you're going to go, who you're going to meet, and what you're going to say to them, and all of those types of things. So how do people get influenced? The first thing is credibility, and it starts with appearance. I want to talk to the men a second. Men, you want to dress for women. You see, women notice everything. They notice your hair, especially if it's coming out of your ears. They notice they notice if you've washed your face. They notice if your tie and your shirt match. They notice if your shoes are shined. They notice if your fingernails are trimmed. Now they notice that about women also, by the way. But men dress for women. Second thing is confidence. You've noticed when somebody walked in the room and all the heads turned toward that person. Now, it might have been a handsome man or a beautiful woman, but there's something about that person, and generally it's a position of confidence when you see him. You know what you're talking about. Consistency. These are people that are never wavering, solid people, and you can always count on them. So, knowing who you're going to meet, what you're going to say, and having goals for every meeting. I know one networker, Tony Harris Taylor, comes to a meeting with the goal of meeting, connecting, and setting up an appointment with 3 people. She doesn't say, I'll give you a call. I'll send you an email. I'll text you. She says, let's make the appointment right now. So think about that when you go to a networking meeting. Make that appointment right now. I'd like to give you some links, and again, this is recorded so you can pick those up from there, but that'll give you some information. Matt, we saved you a seat right back there in the back. And pass your card up, and Red will stick it in the bowl here. Our speaker on health today is Red O'Loughlin. Emotional freedom techniques. Boy, that sounds great, doesn't it? Emotional freedom. Improve your business. I want to tell you some things about Red. First of all, rather than a physician or in the medical industry, Red is a researcher. And he looks for cause and effect rather than symptoms. He's got a background in the military. He was a Navy captain for 31 years in 61 different countries. At one time he had over 5,000 military personnel under him. 5 academic degrees, 7 professional certifications, married 53 years, 2 kids, 3 grandchildren. He's author of 5 books. He's also and they're bestsellers, also a distinguished Toastmaster. You'll hear that when he talks. Book strategist, best-selling author, and publisher. He can show you how to get your book published. We'll make a copy of this presentation for you. So let me welcome Red O'Loughlin.
Hey, Red. Thank you, Gail. Appreciate that greatly. How many people here are familiar with EFT? Just show of hands, give me an idea of what kind of audience. Almost 2. Okay. EFT has been around for probably thousands of years, but not in the United States. Almost everybody here is familiar with acupuncture, where they stick needles in you, right? You either had that done to you or you've seen it done. Okay. The places where they actually put a needle in is called an acupressure point. And so those acupressure points, they found that if you stimulate them with a needle in acupuncture, they'll actually take a wire and hook it up and run a current through it. They may actually sit there and wiggle it back and forth, but they need to stimulate those particular points. And that's what happens in the body when that stimulation occurs. It occurs on a certain median. And that median has a tendency to be able to clear blockages in the body. So if you have a mental block against something, you have a phobia, you have an addiction, there's a lot of things, anxiety, depression, too much weight, too much stress, too much whatever. inability to sleep. There's a lot of problems. I'll go into. They found out that there's a certain sequence to these things, and if you stimulate them just by tapping, that helps. But if you also concentrate the brain at the same time, and you delineate exactly what you want to clear, now you're adding an exponential component to it. Some people say, well, this is a bunch of hooey, it doesn't work. Well, this has actually been scientifically proven. And I mean, there are people who have lost over 100 pounds doing nothing but tapping. 100 pounds is kind of a good level of evidence. People have PTSD, have a life again. A lot of things happen. It doesn't happen overnight. Some things can happen overnight. But I mentioned anxiety, depression. These are things that are typical. On the way out here, I was listening to one because I was doing a presentation today on business. What kinds of things in business do we typically have problems with? Yeah. Returning phone calls, networking, follow-up, a lot of issues that we have. Well, what causes some of those? Well, I try to put it down to one word: resistance. We resist something for whatever reason. We don't know what it is. You know, maybe you can't get something done in a timely manner. Whatever that resistance is, EFT is one way to clear that resistance. Pain management, it's people have had decades of, say, lower back pain, have been in there 2 or 3 months, it's gone. It's amazing how well this thing actually works. The thing that I like about it is it's free. You can do it yourself. You can do it anytime you want. In fact, you could even do it laying in bed without even moving your arms. I'll show you that's kind of a trick, but what you think about, things happen. If you're sitting in a doctor's office and you're starting to get a little anxious about something, you can sit there and do it in the doctor's office. There's a lot of places. Do it in the car at a red light. But I recommend a guy by the name of Brad Yates. Go to YouTube, type in EFT, Brad Yates, and a number of things will come up. But for today, I would say EFT, Brad Yates, and resistance. If you want to have something happen in your business this year, that's a 10 or 15 minute video that will get you started. Now, some of these things, if you're trying to relieve, say, lower back pain that's been with you for decades, it's not going to happen overnight. It's something you have to work on a regular basis, daily basis. However, if you have an immediate problem, maybe you start having headaches, maybe you can't sleep at night, maybe there's some stress in your life, that's something that you may be able to get rid of in a couple days or a week. When I used to go to the gym before COVID, I'd come out of the gym and I'd have a long list of things I had to get done today. I would spend about 8 or 10 minutes in the car and just doing my tapping routine and talking about what I needed to get done. So it kind of set me up for that day, and I found out that when I did that, I could accomplish a whole lot more on my list than I could just taking off and going to places. Let's talk exactly about what it is. Let's say we want to talk about, I can't do follow-ups. Or I meet somebody and for whatever reason, I have difficulty following up with them. Okay, that's a specific item that you want to address. That's your focal point. That is the thing that you want to have that blockage in your body, your brain-body connection cleared. So as such, you recognize that, and you set with that a benchmark. So let's say between 1 and 10, maybe I'm about a 6, 6.5, 7, a little more than a half. I just don't get it done. Maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. But like anything else in life, if you don't write it down, it doesn't happen. So just write down, let's say you're 7. And you go through the entire process and then reassess yourself. You're done, take a deep breath. Okay, how do you feel about it right now? Is there actually a change? And generally speaking, you will have a mental, physical change at the end. And again, write it down. So maybe you went from a 7 to a 5, 7 to a 3. But there is a difference, and there's a reason why you write it down, because now you're getting that visual feedback, that tactile feedback between what you're doing and what's happening in your world. The setup statement is usually done by tapping on the karate chop part of the hand. And you say, even though I have a problem following up with people, I totally love and accept myself. In other words, you're admitting you have a problem, you're defining the problem, you're saying what the problem is, honing in on that problem exactly. And you're saying, yeah, I got it, but despite that, I don't have any problem with myself. It's just a temporary problem in my life. It'll get cleared out. But you're sitting there and you're defining that problem to yourself. and that connects with a certain median in the body. Okay, here are the different medians and how they're connected. Usually you start out, now some people start out with the top of the head. I've seen them go both ways. I tend to go with the top of the head last. But they'll start out with the inside of the top eyebrow. It doesn't matter whether you do either one.
Let them do it too.
Please join me while we're doing it, just so you have, can follow. But go ahead and just right there where the hair touches the eyebrow, just do a little tap. 1 finger is fine, 2 fingers are fine, 4 fingers are fine, it doesn't matter. But that's one of the acupressure points. Then the outside of the eyebrow, right there where everything kind of comes together, just tap on that little outside part. Now when we're doing this tapping here, we're actually having a conversation with ourselves. And that's part of the clearing. And as you go through, you see Brad Yates, you have a YouTube video you want them to, this is where you're actually talking about, yes, I realize I can't follow up with people, I don't know what it is, it's not a big deal to me, I'm sure it'll be corrected. But what you're doing is you're defining that problem and saying, it's no big deal, I want to clear it, let's get it done. I want to clear it at the cellular level in my body, wherever that is at, I want to do. Then underneath the eye, that doesn't matter which eye, but whatever, you know, if you're right-handed, just use that, whatever you're comfortable with. Okay, then you want to do right between the lip and the nose, about midway between, and that's a tapping point. So typically I kind of push my lip down a little bit, and then I get a better contact with that bone. In fact, that's an acupressure point if you want to clear a headache pretty quickly. Just take the really sharp part of your knuckle and just push it in there until you almost have tears, and that acupressure point in many cases will clear a headache literally in seconds. Then about halfway down your chin, again, there's another point that you can tap. And as you're tapping these things, usually about 6, 7, 8, 9 times, you're talking to yourself the whole time. This is the key. You're tapping and talking. You're tapping and talking. Then, it doesn't matter which one. I usually tend to take my 4 fingers and I actually hit that rather than my fingers, your collarbone, right about the side of your neck. The same place if you're clearing lymphatic fluid, you want to get that underneath that little ridge right there. And then underneath, right next to your heart, whichever side you're going on, and you want to, again, I use the 4 fingers, and you're tapping that and talking. The last one you do is the top of the head. And that is the routine. You go through this whole thing. Now I find for me, 8 minutes is minimum. Some people can get done in less time, some people a little bit more, depending on what your problem is. If the problem is something that's really significant in your life, it might take 10 or 12 minutes. If it's something that I want to work on this thing, yeah, set a clock, set it off to the side, don't pay attention, and when it goes off, boom. Okay, wherever you're at, finish up that particular one. But you get done, and you do this routine several times. It's not one you just do once and over. But you do the routine, and then you reassess yourself. Where are you at? So let's see what we missed here. Okay, start with the karate chop. Usually 3 times you set up the statement. Yes, I have a problem following up with people, but I totally love and accept myself despite that problem. Then you go through the sequence. It says 7 taps there with each one, but you're having a conversation. Just because you hit 7, if you're in the middle of a sentence, just finish up the sentence. Just go ahead and get that thought complete and then move to the next one. It's not critical. It's 7 and I gotta move on. Okay, reassess at the end of that sequence that you did, that whole process, say 7 minutes. Reassess your problem. Are you thinking about the problem with the same level of anxiety, stress that you had before? Write it down, 1 to 10. With almost anything in life, you almost need 21 days, 30 days to fix a problem. If it's something that's been for years, that's probably not going to do it. But again, maybe in 2 or 3 months it will be. It's not one of those things you can't get done. Losing 100 pounds might take you a year. But it's one of those things that you're working on. And again, it's free, it doesn't cost you anything. You can do it almost anywhere you're at. It has to be mindful and specific. You just can't be a robot and just talk, it'll be fix this. This is tailored to you. You can go on there and watch 2 or 3 or 4 different YouTube videos, get an idea of what they're saying. Don't follow them per se. Yeah, you can do it just because you get the habit of knowing what to do. But listen to what they're saying, because that particular statement may really tag right into your particular problem. And so what might work for Hyatt, or it might work for Gail, it might work for me or Greg, may not work for Fawn or Alexis. Each person has a different point of which they connect. And so that's very, very important. And with almost anything like it, you have, let's say somebody wants to hypnotize you. If you don't want to be hypnotized, chances are it's not going to happen. You have to have an expectation. But if you go in saying, I expect EFT is going to help me, that expectation connects with the subconscious brain. And when that expectation is known in advance, you can either help something happen or prevent it from happening. So if you're going in with an open mind saying, I don't have any idea what EFT is about, but I know it can help me, it's helped a lot of people. Why not have an open mind and go for it? One thing that you need to be aware of, if you're obsessive compulsive or you have some other problem, you may make it worse. It's always best if you do these kinds of things in some kind of session with an expert. If you have to do something, really assess what you're trying to do. Are you trying to become more obsessive? And maybe you might want to talk with somebody and say, hi, I got this thing I want to do EFT with. I value your opinion. Do you think this is something that will really help me? So maybe just talking to somebody that you know on the outside, maybe they say, I says, maybe you need to tweak it a little bit. Instead of losing weight, maybe you want to say, I want to eat healthy rather than just lose weight, because now you're changing the brain a little bit. So be careful. If you have some real compulsions in life, it can backfire on you. So that's the one thing that I would caution. And I'm going to turn it back over to Gail at this point.
Thank you so much, Red. I told you that Red was a best-selling author. One of my favorite books that Red has written is called The Joy of Ageless Health. It's valuable information. I'd encourage you to get this book and read it.
And it's available today.
Oh, and available today.
If you have a card in here.
So, I was going to give you an opportunity to do this EFT practice, but Red did an outstanding job. So I'm going to just give you a couple of links. Now, this is one I got from Hyatt Ives, and there's a good description about tapping there, and then there's a tapping demonstration for you to go through. So again, in the recording, you'll be able to pick that up. And now it's my pleasure to introduce our featured speaker, DougWinnie. Every great athlete, every great performer, every great business person has a coach. How many of you have coaches in here? A good portion of you have a coach. I have a coach. The Action Coach organization is the largest organization in the world. I think the last number I saw was 1,154 coaches. There may be a little different number today. The number one coach in Action Coach is DougWinnie. You see a lot of his accolades up here. One of the things that I most enjoy from Doug is this book. This is not a bestseller. This is an international bestseller. And I guarantee you, if you read this book, it will make a difference in your business. And oh, by the way, one of you, now that everybody's put their card in there, will actually be able to take this book home with you. So, at this time, I'd like to introduce to you DougWinnie.
Thanks so much, Gail, and thanks for that, Red. It's really interesting, this international best-selling thing. It's fun because, well, maybe you have a dream to write a book someday. I had a dream. It was 30 years ago to write a book. So it took me 29 years. Hopefully you can work a little faster on getting your life work into print. and then share it. So it is available. One of the coolest things, I don't like reading books. Matter of fact, I hate reading books. So it is available on audible.com if you want to listen to it. I hired an actor. He sounds much better than me. He's got a British accent. We all like British accents. So anyway, I like it. So today I want to think, what is the best way so that you walk out of here with something to do? So one of the things you can do is start to work on your brain, your mind, your actions that cause you to have greater success. Red just taught you that. You can do that. Our only limit is what goes in and out of here. That's the only issue any one of us, including I, have, is what we think about. And as Red just said, if you think about the things that cause you to go do this, I mean, I haven't seen this before. I've seen something like it. It was somewhat of a miracle for me. Got rid of pains in like, I don't know, 45 seconds. Literally, by doing an action like that. But if it's follow-up, if it's generating leads, if it's, what about this one? Cold calling. How many love cold calling? It is the most effective marketing mechanism still today. It is. It works. But why don't we do it? Rejection. We learned this around 12, 14, 16 years old. You wanted to ask somebody out on a date and you were scared. Yeah, you're scared. Rejection. What if you became a mega millionaire because you got over that one problem? Is it worth getting over the problem? Yeah, I say this all the time. Very few people do it. Maybe Red can help you. Do it, because it's such a simple thing. It's your ego. Get rid of your ego. One of the things we teach is egocide. Commit egocide. Get rid of your ego. Right? A lot of people have a fear of speaking. I used to have a fear of speaking. It's because of ego. Get rid of your ego. So two things I'm going to teach today. One is really about, that's another thing about mindset, and it's called the point of power. For some of us that have been around for a while, like Matt, it used to be called above and below a line. Actually, I forgot. What was it? It used to be called a line. Now it's called a point. Right? So it's a point, right? So you have this opportunity. You can be above the point or below the point. If you are above the point, you have an oar. It's like being in a boat. You control where you go. Right? If you're going to be below the point, you're actually in what we call bed. And that is like being in bed and just letting the world run around you. Now these are acronyms. So O is for ownership. A is for being accountable. And R is being responsible. I can't spell. All right, and then bed. How about this one? This is probably more common. Blame. Excuse. Denial. Okay. So the real interesting thing about this is that if you are truly above the point, you are a victor. If you're below the point, you are a victim. Now, what's crazy is something I've learned, been an action coach now 12 years, almost 13 years, is that we are taught to be below the point. Anybody's parents blame things? Spouses, religion, politicians. They're teaching us blame, excuse, and even denial. So you got to figure out how you teach yourself ownership, accountability, responsibility. It's a wonderful thing to start teaching children as well. I love, if you have anybody that, any groups, organizations, or those are 12 to 20 years old, love to speak to them about this as well. Because they're being taught by their parents, by their pastors, by the politicians, blame, excuse, denial. And it's our job is to help the youth as well as help ourselves get above the point as often as possible. Is there something that's happened in the last 2.5 years that caused us to be below the point?
Absolutely.
Yes. Right? And so, I mean, there's ways to be above the point, even when it comes to those kinds of things. Right? It's really what we think about, right? You could be like, I was just chatting one of our clients, it's in the business like Matt, marketing agency, right? And they're like, all of our clients are saying there's no customers. I'm like, well, is the search volume high, medium, or low, or is what? It's down about 6%. I'm like, okay, so their business could be down 6%. That would be fair. But their business is down 80%. Isn't that interesting? Mindset. Right? So this is about being sure you have the right mindset. We all will fall below the point. I promise, we all do. I do as well. So I have a coach. A couple coaches, right? And so it's about getting back above the point that matters. The speed at which you get back above the point is all that really matters. You can fall below the point, you can be there 4 seconds. Somebody cuts you off in the freeway, you're running late. What do? You might do some, I don't know, some motions, right? You might say, get out of the way, I'm running late. In your mind or even verbally. If you're driving with somebody in the car, they might say some interesting things. Like, how dare they cut me off? Cut you off, whatever. Or you could go, that's okay, they just didn't see me. Maybe they're having a bad day. Maybe the real issue is I didn't leave early enough. I'm frustrated that they're going too slow because I left late. That's getting back above the point. That's owning the situation. The most popular one is the customer didn't buy. They didn't buy. What's the reason they didn't buy? What are some of the salespeople, not you guys, but other people will say that they didn't buy because what? Couldn't afford it? They weren't really shopping. They didn't really want to buy. That's all below the point. Instead, they didn't buy because I didn't teach enough value. I didn't cause them to want to do business with me. Now we can fix it. If we're thinking they can't afford it, can you fix that? No. Well, there's some wealth advisors here. Maybe they can help fix that. Right? But of course they're interested, right? Because they're chatting with you. You're interested in increasing your, what's it called? PDN-Personal Development Network. Right. You want to increase your personal skills. You want to meet people. You're here being above the point because you want to be better. There's a lot of people not here. So keep this in mind. We're all going to fall below the point. When it comes to sales, comes to marketing, think, is it me in this area? If so, how do you get back up here? Really, really critical. I always want to teach this. Every single time I come to present anything, I always start with above and below the point. Good? Any questions about that? Promise we're all going to fall down there. The speed at which we get back above it. All right, so let's talk about money. Anybody here want to make more money? Just 3? How many people really want to make more money? Good. Well, you already had an hour of coaching this morning. Don't you have enough ideas? All right. So it's really interesting. I've been in business for 30-some years. First business I owned, it took me 7 years to get to just under 30 million in revenue and $250,000 of profit a month. It took me 7 years to get to that point. Really fun. The next business took me about 1 year to get to $1 million and about $200,000 a month in profit. Sold that business about 8 months after it was finished. It was really, really fast. Retired now 15 years ago, and I didn't know this little formula. Had I learned this formula in that last business, I'm sure I would probably be a billionaire. So, hopefully, you could learn the formula now. Now, I learned it at 42. I could have learned it at, first time I got an introduction to Action Coach where they were going to teach the formula was 26. So, I didn't bother listening to it for 16 years. It's a pretty simple formula. It's a recipe. Anybody here cook? Bake? Do you follow recipes or wing it? If you want to bake a cake, do you follow the recipe or do you wing it? Recipe. Except when you've done it 50 times. You know the recipe, right? And that's what's interesting is that Action Coach is all about recipes that work. How often do they work? every single time. Our job as coaches is getting people to actually use the recipe. That's it. When you use the recipe, it works. So this is the recipe about generating lots of profits. So I'll show you the recipe, and then Chad's going to hand out a handout which will allow you to take the recipe home. Your job is to use it. Our job to force you to use it. It's interesting, right? Because, I mean, what if you don't like it? But it'll make you really wealthy. Somebody's got to force you to use it. Fitness coaches, clearly I need one. Interesting times. Mine quit because of this crazy thing called COVID. But anyway, so I got to get a fitness coach. When I have a fitness coach, guess what happens? I get more fit. Is that because I like the exercise? No, I hate the exercise. I'm going to work on this. I hate the exercise, but I'm doing it anyways. I hate the exercise, but I'm doing it anyways. Right? I mean, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
It works. It's a recipe, right? Same thing. Using the recipe causes it to work. If you need help using the recipe, we're here to help, right? And that's it. We're just here to help you do what you might not want to do, right? Maybe it is a whole bunch of telemarketing. Might work. So here's the recipe. All right, so first off is that everybody wants a lot more of these things. Right? We all want more customers. Easy. We also want a lot more revenue. Right? Oh, and by the way, it's really, really important to understand we want more profit. Right? So, everybody says, hey, I want more profit, I want more revenue, I want more customers. Also, by the way, this is what we pay attention to. If I ever ask people when they start coaching and things, right, they know how many customers, they know the revenue, they know the profit. Most people know revenue. Not everybody knows profit, but yeah, we can look at the checking account. Any case, those are the three things. Now, those are the results of actually the recipe, the results of a formula. So the formula is, to get customers, we have to have leads. Now, a lead that doesn't convert is not a customer. But a lead that actually has converts, or we'll say conversion rate. You take a lead, you multiply times your conversion rate, you get customers. Right? Most everybody wants a whole bunch more leads, yet they're not very good at the sales process. In one of the coaching sessions this morning, this was about, I don't like to be a salesperson. Right? She was on the call this morning. Not you, but the other person. Right? Like, well, I don't want to be a used car salesperson. I'm like, who says you have to be a used car salesperson? Only them. They're the ones that's saying that, not me. Right? So sales is this, generating leads is this. Right? So leads times conversion rate gets you customers. You don't necessarily have to work on marketing. You could work on your sales skills. But leads times conversion gets us customers. Now we get a customer. What happens is they're going to buy from us a certain time a year. We call this number of transactions. And they're also going to buy from us a certain dollar amount. We call this average dollar sale. Now, when you get a customer and they buy from you twice a year, and they buy, I say, $100 at a time, right? You're going to get $200 from every one of those customers. Now, multiply customers times transactions and average dollar sale, that gives you revenue. And you multiply your revenue times your margin, your profit margin. And that generates profit. So what we say, this is the 5 ways. 5 ways to increase profit. Leads, conversion rate, number of transactions, average dollar sale, and margin. Most people work on increasing profit by just getting more leads. That's what they think about. I just need more leads, and I'll make more money. Well, what if your existing customers bought from you twice as often as they do today? That would double your profit just by increasing the number of transactions. Or what if you had a bigger package, more things for them to buy from you? That would increase your profit. What if you only sold higher margin goods? That would increase your profit. What if you worked on your sales process? That would increase your profit. And what if you worked on leads? What if you worked on all 5? What's really crazy, and this is the we call it BFO, blinding flash of the obvious, is that if you just grew each of the areas in blue 10%, This goes up 61%. Now a 10% increase in each of these gives you 61%. By the way, that's usually insanely easy. Like stupid easy. You have 1,000 leads a year, getting 100 more in a year is like no brainer. Your conversion rate might be 25%, 1 out of 5. To make it increase 10% just goes to 27.5%, goes up 2.5%. Each one of these, a 10% increase is usually simple, stupid simple. All we gotta do is get people to do it. Now what if you did that for 5 years? 5 years in a row. 5 years in a row would make a business that generates just $100,000 a year get to $1.6 million. So if you're only doing 100 grand a year right now, barely surviving, but you worked on this 10% a year for 5 years, you're gonna get to 1.6 million and 800,000 in profit. It's the do. Learn and then do. I'll go ahead and hand out those. So what's interesting about Action Coach is we're all about giving education always for free. Always teaching for free. All over the city, all over the country, and I am not number 1 in the globe. I'm number 2. I'm number 1 in North America. But number 1 is Bruce Campbell. But anyway, it's fun to be number 2 because I have a place to go. Yes, I've been number 1 several different times, but I just noticed the rankings came out. I'm number 2. No, it's okay to be number 2, I guess. Wait, back to it. Yeah, some people got that. So really, it's about how would I get to be back to number 1? I'm working on my 5 ways. People always ask, Doug, how did you get to be the number 1 coach in the world or number 2 coach in the world? I did this. That's all I have to do. It's kind of simple. Now, what are the strategies in each of these blue areas? Chad's handing those out. Right? There's about 350 strategies. It's in small print. You might need bigger glasses to be able to read it. But there's 70-some strategies just in lead generation. Another 70 or so more in conversion rate. Right? The strategies are there. All you have to do is pick a couple. For all of our clients, what we do is we make sure they're always working on 3 of these strategies every quarter. Consistently. You just consistently do that, and that's exactly what happens. All right, questions? Questions about formulas? All right, so several of you guys are clients, been clients. If you do want to have a chat with us, all you got to do is say, yeah, I want to have a chat with you. Right? Chats are free. We teach during the chat. We call it a business diagnostic. If you really want to have a business diagnostic, it's a little bit of work on your part, about 20 minutes. 20 minutes of pre-work. We'll send you a little questionnaire, you fill it out, we chat about it, then we have what's called a 2-hour business assessment, business diagnostic. 2 hours. We're going to go over these things. I never even bring a client, I won't even bring a client on if I can't get them to 3 times their investment in coaching. 3 to 10 times is the requirement. The average is 7. If I don't make you money, it's stupid for us to talk. I've had conversations where the business isn't coachable. You should probably hear that. If your business wasn't coachable, you should probably hear that. Lots of people hiring, and there's plenty of businesses out there. Maybe you're not coachable. I'll let you know that too. But in that 2 hours, if you're coachable, your business coachable, I'll say, yep, you can join a program. Programs start at $9.25 a month, go up to about $12,000 a month, depending on the size of the business. We have group programs, we have individual programs, lots of different things. But again, I can't offer you a program unless I can make you money. We figure out if we can make you money in this, and that 2-hour chat's free. You had a question?
Yes, the first step is the hardest one.
The first step.
Yeah, so where did you get the leads?
It's not the hardest. Probably the easiest. Unless, of course, you think it's the hardest. If you think it's the hardest, then of course it's the hardest. Yes, right? So who's got the hardest business in the room to generate leads? Who do you think has the hardest business in the room to generate leads?
Hyatt.
Hyatt. Because how many people do marketing at trade shows? Thousands. Right? So no is the answer.
Not during the pandemic. Not during the pandemic.
What if there's not a
Oh,
trade
but
show?
where there's virtual trade shows.
Yeah.
Of course. Me and I had chatted about this, yes. I even wanted him to generate it, but now COVID's over. So, that would be one of our clients did a trade show this weekend, so, yeah, but no, for sure. Who else? I would encourage you to say me. Business coaches. We're a high ticket item. We're causing people to change the way they do business. So how do I get leads?
Doing this.
Oh, look at that! Teaching for free. And which, as we did say, you're doing this little thing, right? So you're teaching lots of things for free. Make sure if you're doing that's a great thing, but you've got to cause people to want to come. Got to cause people to want to come. So in your introductions, you got to talk it up. You got to be really excited about we're teaching blank, whatever that happens to be you're teaching. It's got to be really exciting. So lead generation is not tough, but there's also lots of different ways. Their strategic partners, making sure you're partnering with people. That way you have forever leads. Short term, I would do speaking engagements. I would do lots of teaching, lots of free assessments, lots of things like that. But there's about 75, 80 different strategies. Oh, by the way, the number one strategy for almost every business, I don't know enough about yours, but the number one, talk to Matt. The internet. How many people are searching for your products and services?
Yes.
It's one of the most important things. If there is a market and they're searching, you must be there. You have to. I mean, if you're not there and they're searching for your service, they can't buy from you. It's impossible. Right? So find a marketing agency that will generate leads for you. And I know they have a guarantee. Make sure that there's a guarantee. All right, any other questions? Fantastic. If you do want to meet with me or any of my team, just let Chad know. I know I have another client in 4 minutes. Thank you guys very much.
You remember when we talked about making the appointment? Write that URL down and write down that phone number, because you're not going to be able to catch.
You don't even have to write it down.
So,
It's
on it. It's on
so,
it.
there you go. It's on the sheet of paper also. Okay, very good. So, by the way, well, I'll tell you this way. How many of you are receiving the Connections Now newsletter? Doug receives it. Most of you do. If you do not, let me know, because what it does is give you the top networking events, and it comes out weekly. This is one of the events on that list. Red O'Loughlin has got an article every week in there. We do a book review like the one that we were just talking about, the blind spots review. Would this be a good time for that, Red? We're going to give away, this way you'll get to get it autographed before Doug leaves, the business blind spots, and the lucky winner is
Go Graf.
All right, it's Bill.
Bill Graff.
All right.
Okay, would you hand that back to Bill, and he can give, or hand it back to Doug, and he can autograph it for Bill. Very good. Okay, and just wanted to give you, yeah, we'll get another one in a minute. Just wanted to give you a quick note on some of these upcoming events. Next Tuesday, February the 15th, this event's been going on for 11 years. It's one that Eric Stanley started years ago. Houston West Chamber of Commerce, great networking event. We used to call it Rise and Grind. Now we call it Wow. So be sure to attend that one next Wednesday, 7 a.m. at Cantina Laredo. Someone mentioned Toolbox. Toolbox, I'm sorry, ladies, it's only for men. Yeah, it's only for men. But it is a faith-based meeting, and they're held in, well, I went to one yesterday. The Houston Club, Hyatt Eyes was there, downtown. The next one will be out at the Westlake Country Club, West Side Country Club.
There's one today.
Yeah.
There's one today.
And there's one today.
Galleria one.
Galleria. Okay, CBFA, Christian Business Fellowship Association, they've got 5 different locations. If you're involved in politics, we don't spend a lot of time with that, but the commissioner for this area is Jack Cagle. He'll be at, on February 17th at 7 p.m. Bill Graff started this organization, and it is called the Senior Estate Concierge. I'm a member of that, but it covers benefits and recommendations and results and suggestions and referrals for seniors and their families. It's not a networking group, but it is a resource group. I was in B&I for 17 and a half years, and I learned a lot about networking. But I learned some more when I went to the free online networking that Joe Axline and Scott Moran conduct. I'd suggest that you try it next Monday. It's going on right now. I just left a few minutes ago Katie Business Connections. It's another great networking group. This event, PDN, will be on March the 9th, and you see Lathan Watts. He's going to be speaking on First Amendment rights. Fantastic session. I want to recommend to you check out Boomer Connections for seniors by seniors. The facilitator for that was Hyatt Eyes, but there's a number of videos on there, and I was the host for the first, I don't know, 4 sessions or something. Talking about free books. I want to give you a free book today. You know, Hippocrates said all health begins in the gut, and this is the best book I know. Well, I know it's got my name on it, but a friend of mine actually wrote it, a physician, and it's fantastic information. That's just a little bit more information on there. So before we close, we're going to have one more drawing, and this drawing is for. Oh, it's already.
I already have that, so.
I have got it, so we're going to draw another card.
Fawn?
Oh, fine about that.
What'd you tell me when you came in the door you were gonna win?
I'm gonna give that back to Red. He'll autograph that for you. I wanna thank each and every one of you for being here today. And Red, if you'll push the button on the camera here.